When I pulled into the gravel driveway of my seaside cottage, the first thing I noticed wasn't the ocean. It was the car parked where mine should have been. A silver Lexus. Too clean, too polished for this place. My stomach tightened. I'd driven 4 hours from the city to clear my head after the separation, after months of silence between me and Amanda. The cottage had always been my refuge, the one place untouched by the arguments and cold shoulders that had become our marriage. But as I stepped out of my truck, I heard laughter from inside. It wasn't just hers. There were voices, multiple, echoing through the open windows. Female, one male. I stood still for a moment, listening. Someone was frying something in the kitchen. I could smell garlic and oil, hear the sizzle. Then a voice, Amanda's mother, unmistakably sharp and nasal, said, "He's not coming back, dear. He can't afford to keep this place anyway." I took a slow breath. Then I climbed the porch steps and opened the door. There they were, Amanda, her mother Diane, her sister Kelly, and a man I'd never seen before. He was barefoot, wearing one of my shirts, sitting at my dining table like he owned the place. My table, my walls, my life. Amanda's eyes widened for a second, then narrowed. "Oh," she said coolly. "You're back." "I live here," I replied, setting my keys on the counter. My voice was calm, level. I wasn't giving her the satisfaction of seeing me flinch. Diane stood, her hands on her hips. "You don't have to be rude. Amanda said you left for good." I looked at her, then back at my wife. "Is that what she said?" Amanda shrugged, picking up a glass of wine. "You walked out, Daniel. You said you needed space." "So," I took the hint. "By moving in your family?" I asked, my tone dry. Her new boyfriend, the one in my shirt, decided to speak then. "Look, man, there's no need to make this awkward. We're just here helping her get settled." I turned to him slowly. "Settled?" "Yeah," Amanda said, with a little smirk. "This place was always our dream, not just yours. And since you can't even afford to keep up with the property taxes, I figured." I cut her off with a quiet laugh. "Property taxes. That's an interesting choice of words." Her mother rolled her eyes. "You don't have to act all high and mighty, Daniel. You've been struggling for years. Amanda told us everything. How you couldn't even keep your construction business afloat." The boyfriend chuckled under his breath, like he was in on some private joke. I looked around the house, at the photos still on the wall, at the old leather chair by the window, at the framed deed I'd hung in the hallway years ago. The air was thick with the smell of their cooking, of perfume and arrogance. "You made yourselves comfortable," I said finally. "Even used my dishes." Amanda leaned against the counter, swirling her wine. "Don't make this dramatic. You left, remember? You always run when things get hard. Maybe it's time someone actually took care of this place." Her words were sharp, meant to wound. I didn't give her the reaction she wanted. I just smiled, slow, deliberate. "Well," I said quietly, "it's good to know you still have imagination. You'll need it." That made her pause. "What's that supposed to mean?" I didn't answer. I just walked to the back window and looked out at the sea, the waves crashing against the rocks below. The same view I'd paid for, maintained, protected. The same view that would soon remind them exactly whose house they were standing in. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: people like Amanda and her family mistake silence for weakness. But silence is just the sound of strategy forming. And mine had already begun. Amanda's boyfriend, he finally introduced himself as Travis, stretched back in my chair, the one I'd built from reclaimed oak, and said, "Look, man, maybe it's best if you come back later. We've got a lot to sort through." He said it casually, like this was his place now, like I was the intruder. I almost laughed at the absurdity. Instead, I looked around the room again, taking in the details, my jacket hanging on the hook, but her purse on the counter. A cheap Bluetooth speaker playing music I'd never allow in this house. The faint scent of her mother's perfume mixing with the sea air. My home smelled wrong. Amanda must have seen something in my face, because she said quickly, "We're just staying here for a while, Daniel. It's not like you were using it. You don't even come up here anymore." "I didn't know I needed permission," I said, walking past her toward the hallway. My boots echoed on the hardwood. Every sound was a reminder that this was my ground. "You changed the locks?" Travis chuckled. "You mean I changed them?" I turned to face him. "You broke into my house and replaced the locks." Diane scoffed. "Oh, don't be dramatic. Amanda told you she was moving up here." "No," I said evenly. "She told me she was staying with her sister." Didn't realize she meant my property. Amanda rolled her eyes. Stop acting like you're some victim. You left. You can't handle responsibility, and now you're mad because someone else can. I met her gaze. Calm. Focused. Amanda, how many times did you say that line in the mirror before you believed it? She blinked, caught off guard. Excuse me. You've always needed an audience, I said softly. Your mom to justify your cruelty, your sister to echo your lies, and now him to pretend you're happy. You're consistent. I'll give you that. Travis stood, puffing up. Watch your mouth, man. I smiled slightly. You're wearing my shirt. I think I'll say whatever I want. He took a step forward, but Amanda put a hand on his chest. Don't. He's trying to provoke you. I opened the hall closet, pulled out a black lockbox, and checked inside. My property papers, still there. Untouched. My insurance, the deed, the receipts. Good. Amanda noticed. You can't threaten us with paperwork, Daniel. I don't need to, I said, locking the box again. Paperwork doesn't threaten people. It evicts them. Her mother scoffed. You think the cops are going to side with you? You've been gone for months. This place looks abandoned. That's your story, not the truth, I said. But you're welcome to keep telling it. The officers will enjoy the contrast when they see the deed. Amanda laughed then, a sharp, humorless sound. You're not calling the cops. You can't afford to keep this place, Daniel. We both know that. You're broke. A loser pretending to be a homeowner. Her words landed like stones on water, loud, then gone. I just looked at her, hands in my pockets, calm as the tide outside. Check who owns the deed, I said quietly. Then tell me again who the loser is. Silence. Even the music stopped. Travis had turned the speaker off without realizing it. I walked to the door. I'll give you all one night, I said. Sleep here, eat my food, enjoy the ocean view. But at 8 a.m., the sheriff will be here. I'd suggest you pack early. Amanda's voice cracked. You're serious? I turned back, meeting her eyes one last time. Dead serious. Then I stepped outside into the cold sea wind, my pulse steady, the sound of the waves rising behind me like applause. The next morning, the air smelled of salt and cold rain. I got up early, brewed coffee in a thermos, and parked my truck just down the road from the cottage. From that distance, I could see movement inside, curtains shifting, shadows passing by. They were awake, probably packing in a panic, or maybe convincing themselves I'd been bluffing. They always thought I was bluffing. At 7:30, a county cruiser turned onto the gravel road, tires crunching over the stones. Deputy Morales stepped out, a man I'd known for years, back when I first bought the property. We'd gone fishing once. Morning, Daniel, he said, glancing toward the house. You said it's occupied without consent? Yeah, I said, handing him a folder. Deeds inside. Title, insurance, everything. They broke in, changed the locks, and moved in like they owned the place. He flipped through the documents, nodded once. All looks in order. You want me to escort them out? They can pack first. No need for a scene. We walked up the steps together. The door opened before we even knocked. Diane stood there, arms crossed, chin lifted high like a matriarch in a cheap drama. You called the police? Over family. Morales gave her a polite smile. Ma'am, we're just here to verify property ownership. Nothing more. Amanda appeared behind her, hair messy, eyes red, from anger, not sleep. Daniel, this is ridiculous. You said we could stay the night. I did, I said. And the night's over. Travis stepped forward, still wearing that smug grin, though it looked thinner today. You can't just throw people out. We've been here for weeks. Squatters' rights or something. Morales raised an eyebrow. Sir, squatters' rights apply after 30 days of continuous residence without dispute. According to Mr. Hale here, he returned yesterday. Amanda's tone turned pleading, the confidence cracking. Deputy, he abandoned the house. We've been keeping it up, paying bills, cleaning, maintaining. Morales interrupted gently. Ma'am, I ran the address before coming. All utilities, property taxes, and the deed are under Daniel Hale. None under your name. You'll need to vacate. The silence that followed was heavy. Diane muttered something under her breath about ungrateful men. Amanda's eyes darted between me and the deputy, searching for some leverage that didn't exist. I leaned on the doorframe, calm. I told you last night, you could stay until morning. I'm a man of my word. Travis threw up his hands. Fine, we'll go. But this isn't over. No, I said quietly. For you, it's just starting. Morales stayed until they finished packing. They carried out boxes, bags, even groceries that weren't theirs. Amanda tried to make eye contact when she passed me, but I didn't move, didn't speak. Her silence was louder than anything she could have said. When the last of them stepped outside, I held the door open. Leave the keys on the counter. Amanda hesitated. You really want to do this? I looked her dead in the eye. You already did. The deputy's cruiser rolled away 15 minutes later, their car following behind it. I stood in the quiet that remained. The kind of quiet that comes after a storm has passed, but before you notice the damage. The house was empty again. Mine again. But I knew her pride wouldn't let it end here. Amanda always needed the last word. And when she came back for it, I'd be ready. I spent the afternoon putting the house back together. Sheets stripped, windows opened, the smell of their perfume chased out by ocean air and bleach. Every drawer I opened felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. They'd been careless, left receipts, wine stains, even a pair of sunglasses on my dresser. The kind of arrogance that comes from thinking consequences are for other people. By sunset, the place looked like mine again. Quiet, clean, whole. But I knew better than to think it was over. Amanda had always been predictable when cornered. First denial, then anger, then the performance. The first text came at 8:12 p.m. Amanda, you didn't have to humiliate me like that. I told you I'd take care of the place. Then another, 5 minutes later. Amanda, Mom's furious. We could have sold it, split the money. Why do you always have to win? I didn't respond. By 9 o'clock, the messages turned sharp. Amanda, you think this makes you strong? You're pathetic. A broke loser hiding behind paperwork. That line again. The same one she'd thrown at me yesterday. She was recycling insults now, a sign of desperation. I poured a drink, sat on the porch, and watched the tide creep in. I'd already transferred the property's digital records into a private trust 6 months earlier, anticipating this kind of meltdown. Legally, she couldn't touch a cent tied to it. The next morning, I woke to tires on gravel. Her Lexus again. She got out alone this time, wearing sunglasses and false confidence. She marched up the porch steps, heels stabbing the wood like she could hurt me through it. Daniel, we need to talk, she said. I opened the door halfway. Make it quick. She crossed her arms. You embarrassed me in front of my family. You made me look like a fool. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't need my help with that. Her jaw tightened. You can't keep everything, Daniel. The cottage, the cars, it's community property. I stepped aside just enough for her to see the lockbox on the table. You really want to talk about ownership? Go ahead, open it. She hesitated, then walked in and flipped it open. Inside were neatly stacked documents, titles, insurance policies, and the trust certificate. Every asset she thought was hers, legally sealed under my name alone. Her face paled. You moved everything? 6 months ago, I said, before you changed the locks. She looked up at me, and for the first time since our separation, I saw fear under the anger. This isn't over, she whispered. I smiled, slow and steady. You're right. It's not. Because tomorrow, the locks change again, and this time, you're not getting a key. She turned and walked out without another word. I watched her car disappear down the road, the sound of the surf swallowing her engine noise. The storm was shifting, I could feel it. Amanda wouldn't give up quietly, not when pride was all she had left. And I had no intention of making it easy for her. By midweek, the peace I'd reclaimed started cracking. It began with a phone call from the county office. A polite clerk informed me that an anonymous complaint had been filed claiming I'd been illegally occupying the cottage after a separation dispute. I almost laughed. Amanda had wasted no time. Send me a copy of the complaint, I said. When the email came through, the signature was digital, Amanda L. Hale. She'd claimed she was the sole occupant, that I'd broken in and threatened her safety. She even listed Travis as a witness. Textbook manipulation. When cornered, become the victim. That afternoon, I paid a visit to the sheriff's station with my paperwork. Deputy Morales saw me and shook his head. Already guessed this was coming. She always was ambitious, I said. How do we handle it? Simple. We file your ownership documents and the incident report from last week. That complaint won't go anywhere. Still, I knew Amanda wasn't finished. She never stopped after losing once. She doubled down until she lost everything. The next evening, I installed new cameras, front porch, back deck. inside the living room. Not paranoia, just prudence. If she or Travis decided to return for a late-night visit, I wanted proof. I slept easier knowing that every move around the property was recorded. Sure enough, 2 nights later, at 1:13 a.m., the alert on my phone buzzed. Motion detected on the porch. I opened the feed and watched headlights flicker across the front steps. Amanda, wearing a hoodie, whispering to Travis. They were trying to pry open the lock. I called Morales again. They're here. By the time the cruiser arrived, they were still arguing on the porch. The deputy's lights painted the cottage blue and red, the ocean behind it roaring like applause again. Morales stepped out first, flashlight cutting through the dark. Evening, he said flatly. Trespassing after a lawful eviction. Not a good look. Amanda froze, her face pale under the lights. We were just getting a few things I left. Then you should have called the owner, Morales replied. Travis puffed his chest out. He's not the owner. Morales pointed to the deed clipped to his clipboard. Yeah, he is. Signed, sealed, and recorded. Step off the porch. They left in silence, escorted by the deputy. I didn't say a word from the window. Didn't need to. The next morning, I sent the footage to my lawyer, just in case. He called 20 minutes later. Daniel, you may have just built yourself an iron wall. They can't touch you now. Any future claim she files will look retaliatory. I poured coffee, looking out at the sea, the light breaking over the horizon. Good, I said. I'm done reacting. It's time she learns what consequences actually feel like. Because I wasn't just defending my property anymore. I was reclaiming my dignity, one calculated move at a time. The following week was quiet enough to almost fool me. No calls, no messages, no strange cars parked by the dunes. But quiet is deceptive. It's what Amanda always used before her next performance. It came Friday morning in the form of a voicemail from my boss at the architecture firm. Daniel, he said carefully, I've been contacted by someone claiming to be your wife. She said you were under investigation for domestic disturbance. Wanted to warn the company in case police reached out. I closed my eyes and took a breath through my nose. Classic. When she couldn't take what I owned, she'd try to poison what I'd built. I called him back, kept my voice calm. It's a false claim. There's a police report on file proving it. I'll send it to HR today. Didn't sound like something you'd do, he admitted. But I had to ask. By noon, the matter was buried. Morales' official report and the eviction order shut that door before it opened. Still, it told me one thing. Amanda wasn't done trying to ruin me. That evening, I drove into town and met with my lawyer, Rachel Quinn. She was a quiet, sharp woman who preferred results to speeches. I showed her the complaint, the footage of Amanda and Travis on my porch, and the voicemail. She studied the files, then leaned back. We can press charges, trespassing, harassment, defamation. But if you want her gone for good, we handle it cleanly. Meaning, we file a restraining order and a cease and desist for defamation. It'll force her hand legally. Once she realizes every move she makes digs the hole deeper, she'll stop. I nodded. Do it. Rachel gave a small smile. You've been patient. That's your edge. She's emotional, impulsive. You're not. That's how men like you win. On my drive home, I thought about that. It wasn't about winning. It was about control, something Amanda had taken from me piece by piece until I didn't recognize myself. Now, every document, every step, every calm decision was a brick in the wall I was rebuilding around my life. Saturday morning, a courier delivered the legal notice to Amanda's apartment in the city. I knew because the process server sent me a time-stamped photo. Her face twisted in disbelief as she accepted the envelope. By Sunday afternoon, Travis called from a blocked number. His voice was shaky. You didn't have to go this far, man. She's not taking it well. I stared at the sea through my window. She made her choices. Now she lives with them. He hesitated. You really think this'll fix anything? It already did, I said, and hung up. That night, the air turned cold and sharp. I opened the window, listened to the waves breaking against the rocks, and felt something I hadn't in months. Peace with an edge of finality. Because there was only one move left to make. And tomorrow morning, I planned to make it. The sun hadn't fully risen when I left for town. The sea mist was low, turning the road into a gray tunnel. I parked outside the county clerk's office at 8 sharp and walked in with a folder under my arm. The last piece of the game Amanda had started and I intended to finish. Rachel met me inside. You ready? She asked. More than ready. We filed 2 motions that morning, a permanent restraining order and a petition to transfer full ownership of our joint assets to my sole name, citing abandonment, fraud, and attempted illegal occupation. The evidence was airtight: the police reports, security footage, and her defamatory complaint. Rachel said it might take a week to process, but by afternoon, the county recorder confirmed the updated deed. The seaside cottage, the vehicles, even the bank account tied to the property, all now legally mine. At noon, Rachel called. She's already been served. Apparently, she tried to argue with the deputy about the paperwork. I'm sure she did, I said, watching the tide roll in from the bluff. What happens next? She has 24 hours to vacate anything with your name on it. If she refuses, we proceed with enforcement. That afternoon, I drove back to the cottage. For the first time, it looked truly empty. The air smelled like salt and rain, not perfume or bitterness. I sat on the porch, poured myself a coffee, and waited. At 5 p.m., a familiar car appeared at the edge of the drive, Amanda's Lexus. She stepped out without Travis this time. Her expression was brittle, like glass ready to crack. I got your little notice, she said, voice trembling. You really think you can erase me? I set my cup down. Erase you? No. You did that yourself when you broke into my house. You can't do this. The cottage, the cars, are all in my name, I said. Legally confirmed this morning. The account you used for bills? Closed. The joint one? Transferred. There's nothing left for you here. She took a step closer, tears threatening. You're not even angry, are you? I met her gaze. Anger is temporary. I prefer consequences. Her shoulders slumped, and for the first time, she looked small, like a person who finally saw the sum of their decisions stacked against them. You're colder than I ever knew, she whispered. I stood. No, just done pretending that being kind means being weak. She opened her mouth to reply, then stopped, realizing there was nothing left to say. The Lexus door shut harder than it needed to, and the engine's roar faded into the wind. When she was gone, I walked inside, locked the door, and exhaled. The house was mine again, silent, solid, honest. For the first time in months, I slept without expecting a knock, a text, or a lie. But dawn had one last surprise in store. Because as peaceful as that night felt, the next morning would be even better, when Amanda's entire little world finally collapsed in front of witnesses. The next morning broke clear and sharp, sunlight flashing off the ocean like glass. I was on the porch with my first cup of coffee when the county truck rolled up the drive. 2 deputies and a locksmith stepped out. The lead deputy nodded toward me. Morning, Mr. Hale. Court order went through. We're here to complete the eviction. Appreciate it, I said, handing him the paperwork Rachel had sent over. I could have stayed inside, let them handle it, but I wanted to see it through, all of it. The Lexus appeared 15 minutes later, followed by a rental van loaded with furniture and boxes. Amanda was behind the wheel, Travis riding shotgun, Diane wedged in the back seat. They got out laughing, all bright faces until they saw the deputies standing by my porch. Travis frowned. What's this? Execution of a lawful eviction. The deputy replied evenly. You've been served notice. You were given 24 hours. Amanda's jaw dropped. You can't be serious. We just came to pick up our things. I stood, calm as the tide. You picked up more than your share the first time. The rest stays. Diane snapped. You're pathetic, Daniel. You always were. I smiled. And yet somehow I still own everything you're standing on. The locksmith moved past them, removed their padlock, and replaced it with mine. The deputies supervised as Travis's belongings, a gym bag, a stack of clothes, and a cheap guitar, were handed out onto the gravel drive. One of the deputies tilted his head toward me. Want us to stay while they clear out? I'll be fine, I said. They're done. Amanda's face hardened, but her voice shook. You didn't have to do this. You're right, I said softly. I wanted to. For a moment, no one spoke. The wind off the sea filled the silence, carrying the scent of salt and finality. Travis muttered something about psycho exes, but he didn't meet my eyes. Diane kept glancing toward her daughter, waiting for a cue that never came. When the deputies drove off, they loaded the last box into the van. Amanda lingered a moment longer, staring up at the house like she was trying to memorize it. Maybe she finally realized she'd mistaken possession for ownership, manipulation for power. I said one last thing before she left. Don't worry. I'll make sure the place gets a fresh coat of paint. No trace of what happened here. She didn't answer, just climbed into the driver's seat. Gravel sprayed as they pulled away, the van wobbling under the weight of everything they thought they'd stolen. When the road went quiet again, I walked down to the beach. The water was cold around my boots, steady, endless. I took a deep breath and felt the weight of months lift from my chest. It wasn't triumph I felt, not really. It was peace born of truth. She had called me broke, useless, replaceable. But in the end, I still had the one thing she never would, control. The house stood silent behind me, solid as stone. My house, my life, my peace. And for the first time in years, it was all mine. Dear listeners, our story has come to an end. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments.